Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today we're going to talk about Dungeons & Dragons 5th Edition. We're going to talk about how, as a Dungeon Master, how dark are you going to allow your story to go? All right, so today I want to talk about, in building toward this question. This question comes specifically from a spectacular film based off a spectacular novel. So if you're not aware, Agatha Christie is one of the most successful mystery writers that has ever successful. Is Agatha Christie American? She might be British. Interesting. I don't know. I think she's British. But regardless, she is like top tier mystery writer. She's dead now. But even today, her story, I would say that Agatha Christie was like, she is to mystery as Stephen King is to horror, but in like the era right preceding World War II, right? And she's really important because, one, unfortunately, a lot of women writers don't really reach the same pinnacles that men writers do. There are some issues in the publishing field, and sometimes, like J.K. Rowling did talk about how she used her first two initials because she felt that as a woman she might not be given the full swing from her publisher, right? And it's pretty interesting. But Agatha Christie accomplished a lot as an author, right? She wrote a book called Crooked House, and Crooked House was specifically a story of a super wealthy family who the patriarch, the grandfather of the house, this super wealthy family, he is killed. He's murdered, okay? Spoilers for Agatha Christie's Crooked House. So this is a spectacular 2017 movie. Had a lot of Hollywood stars in it. I only know one by name, and that was Glenn Close. She was fantastic in it. But this is a pitch-perfect creation of a book turned into a movie. And it's just a really... here's another one. If you like Knives Out, you're going to love Agatha Christie's Crooked House. It's just pitch-perfect, extremely tight, well-done movie, right? Now, as a Dungeon Master, I would highly... Also, this is every Dungeon Master content, right? Because this is what we do. Like, we create tightly bound... you should be able to put a single story into a 2-hour session. And I can't believe how many Dungeon Masters cannot do this, right? But watch good movies, right? You establish strong characters. You have them do dramatic things quickly, right away. You do not waste time on filler, right? And then you punch it at the end with a solid, dramatic, logical, compelling ending, right? And that's what this movie does, right? It's a spectacular film, right? It's called Crooked House, right? So I'll give you the story real quick because there are spoilers here for Agatha Christie's Crooked House. So basically, this super wealthy, almost like the Rothschilds wealthy, the Vanderbilts or whatever their names are. So it's this super wealthy family, and the grandfather's incredibly controlling, and he's got a lot of these leech kids who just kind of like leech off his wealth, and they're not bringing honor to him, and he's frustrated with that, but he's not really a very loving parent either, so there's all this tension in this rich house, right? So basically this murder happens, and the grandfather is murdered, right? Well, he had taken an American wife. He's British. He had taken an American wife, so he's like 70. His wife's like 30. You're like, oh, does she love him, or is this? Did she marry him for his wealth? Kind of that question in it. And all the wealthy kids don't like the new widow. The new widow doesn't like them. There's all this crazy tension, right? So, did the widow kill him? Did one of the kids who he had said no to about a single request kill him? Who killed him, right? So also, basically, the story starts going forward, and what really shocked me. So this is Agatha Christie. She's a very nice, intelligent lady, right? And so, and I've read a lot of her books, but I hadn't read this one, right? And what really shocked me was how dark the story got. So basically, the grandfather also had a grandchild, right? And the grandchild's in a few of the scenes. But it's clear that the grandchild, her mother was an actress, and she really like wanted her youth, and she wanted to be able to act, and she really felt that the child she had been very like interrupting to her life. So she's not a very loving mother, right? The father, he's like a script writer and a novel writer, and he's got a movie script, and like he doesn't care about the daughter either, right? This granddaughter, right? So what shocked me is the mystery was the granddaughter, right, killed the grandfather because he would not let her take ballet lessons, and that was what she loved the most in the world. And the reason the grandfather would not let her take ballet lessons is because one of his daughters had been had actually injured herself doing ballet, right? And then she would like kind of and she had dash dreams, and so the grandfather wanted to save his little granddaughter from this pain, but the reality is he was just doing what he wanted. He was controlling, right? And so she wanted ballet lessons. He had every ability to give her ballet lessons. So did the parents, and he just said, "No, I'm not going to give you these ballet lessons." And this grandchild who was 10 killed him for it, right? Arranged for someone else to poison the father, right? Couldn't believe it. Like, I was like, wow. Then she got a taste for murder, and she killed her nanny, poisoning her nanny as well, right? And then what ends up happening is this poor little granddaughter, who's clearly a killing sociopath, right, is then, I couldn't believe how this movie ended. Glenn Close is her aunt, right? So she is the mother of this sociopathic 10-year-old killer girl. She is the mother's sister, right? And she's still in the picture, right? Well, she solves the mystery and then says to her sociopath daughter, sociopath niece, the daughter of her sister, "We're going to go get ice cream." She takes this beautiful British roadster and drives it off a cliff into a quarry, killing herself, right, the old lady, the Glenn Close character, and the 10-year-old sociopath killer, right? And I'm like, wow. It's like, that got dark quickly. That escalated very, very quickly, right? So one of the things I think we as Dungeon Masters should be aware of is how dark do we want to take our stories, right? And are we fully aware of how quickly these stories can turn, right? Because we don't plan these things for months, right? We plan for maybe a week, maybe 2 weeks, right? And we have to be able to let story ideas go. So we have to make these decisions. These decisions can literally have to be made in 30 seconds, right? And what really surprised me was, this cricket house trucked along until it reached a point where anybody could be the killer. And if any adult had been the regular killer, this story would not have been nearly as dark as it was, right? But because it was a child, and this aunt was like, this child has been ruined by her parents. She has been given no love and has already murdered twice, right? This is a serial killer in the making, and I'm going to end this child's life. That is an incredibly dark story. Like that, and it was just one simple fork. The child is the murderer, right? And so for us, we just need to be very aware of how quickly we can take our stories dark and how dark we can take our stories. Personally, I don't think we should be telling stories this dark in Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, right? The other thing that shocked me is you do not need gore, and there was not a drop of blood in this movie because both murders were done by poison, right? And also there was a huge explosion at the end when the roadster went into the quarry, but there was no blood, right? So just so you're aware, you can go really dark with very little time and with very little blood, right? So just be aware of how quickly your stories can go dark, and make sure you're making wise decisions, and think now about how dark you want your stories to go. I think this is too dark for a Dungeons & Dragons game. That's my opinion. What do you think? Do you think very, very dark stories can be told within Dungeons & Dragons construct? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Let me know in the comments below. Please consider liking and subscribing, and have a wonderful millennium.